Join us today on Beyond the Lair, where we have a conversation with the incredible Yolanda Skelton, a Gitxsan fashion designer from the runway, film, and television. Yolanda talks about the meaning of her designs, fabrics, energy, and giving back as a teacher, a mentor, and a storyteller. Hello, welcome to Beyond the Lair. I am your co-host, Gina Jackson Montgomery.
And I am Dean Montgomery.
It is such a pleasure to have you viewing with us today and listening to us. We are thrilled to have one of our favorite designers with us today and honored. We are pleased to have Yolonda Skelton Sugiit Lukxs, which means when the whales crest, is a visionary fashion costume designer from the Gitxsan First Nations who works beautifully and intertwines our cultural heritage with contemporary aesthetics. Yolanda's deep connection with her roots is taught her by her late maternal grandmother, Lily Jackson, nice last name, by the way, is evident in each and every one of her designs and creations. Her innate ability to fuse the old and the new has made her a trailblazer in the industry, captivating many audiences worldwide with her unique style. Yolanda's designs tell stories of her ancestors, invoking a sense of pride and reverence for the Gitxsan culture. She honors the traditions passed down through generations while embracing the ever-evolving world of fashion. Yolanda's acclaimed designs have been graced on runways of prestigious fashion shows, attracting a loyal following. She consistently pushes the boundaries of what is possible, challenging conventional fashion and redefining what it means to be an Indigenous designer. Welcome, Yolanda.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here today.
We're so excited to have you here today. Yolanda and I have known each other for just maybe over a year or two?
Probably two. At least
2 years. In the fashion. I wear a lot of fashion as many people know. Dean knows that I love fashion because I spend a lot of money on it. But I do get to know in our career beautiful designers like yourself, which allows me to showcase your artworks on me and other beautiful people. And you'll get into some of the celebrities that wear your fashion. But I am wearing, for those that are viewing today, I am wearing one of Yolanda's jackets, which has ladybugs on it, and you always talk about preserving the earth and being concerned with the environment. And before we get into what this means and the jacket, and we have another jacket hanging as well, maybe we could just talk about you and how you started, because you did not start in fashion.
No, I didn't. I started out in education. So I was a teacher for 22 years. Some of my time was on Haida Gwaii. Other parts of my time was in Victoria. I taught in an alternate school there, a First Nations graduation program. And then I moved over here to Vancouver, where I taught at Langley Fine Arts. So I'm kind of an eclectic teacher. I've taught every subject imaginable and also worked in special ed.
Amazing. Let's go back to where you grew up and what your influence are, and tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, I kind of grew up in all three of those same places. So I started out here in Vancouver. I went back and forth between Prince Rupert and Vancouver as a child. My mom was a student at UBC, and so we would go home to Prince Rupert, where she would work like crazy, make her money, and then we'd come back for school. And then I moved to Haida Gwaii when I was in my early teens, and I was there for, I think, until grade 10. And I was inspired by one of my home economics teachers in grade 8. And that's when my mom had always made my costumes all through, like for dance recitals and all of that kind of fun stuff. So I always saw her sewing and making my regalia and all of those things. But I didn't start actually sewing myself until grade 8 with Miss McCush. And she just inspired me to make more things and more difficult things as I went along. And I just continued that. When I moved to Hazelton, I lived with my grandma, and that's where all the cultural knowledge comes from. It was all the stories that she taught me while I was living with her and my grandfather, and living on the land. And, my grandpa would talk to me about and bring home the things because he was a trapper. So he would tell me about, life on the trap line and show me how to do all these different things with the animals. I was a little bit squeamish, so it was not my thing, but it did connect me to the process of, working with fur. And it's become something that I incorporate into the fashions that I have. And then I had another teacher there that was just amazing, and she really nurtured my love of fashion. And then from there, I went to university here in Vancouver. So I've always had this real connection to this city because I grew up here. And then coming back and I went to SFU and I majored in psychology. And then I became a high school teacher. So that's where all my training is. I'm not trained as a fashion designer. I just have this love of fashion and have trained myself and taken courses and things over the years just to develop techniques and things like that. And I've done an incredible residency in Banff where I got to learn from elders and bougie aunties. They're just amazing. And they were just wonderful teaching us how to do quill work, how to do caribou tufting. So I've just been honing different skills so that I can pull them together in my design work. So it's kind of the road I've been traveling with the fashion. I've always kind of done it off the side of my desk because I was a teacher full time. And it wasn't until about 3 years ago that I had taken a break from teaching. And the kids kept telling me, Miss Kelly, because they shortened my name to Miss Kelly, you need to follow your dreams. Because I was always telling them when I was doing career stuff with them, you need to follow your dreams, follow your passion. And then it won't be like work because you're really enjoying what you do and you're just going to keep growing and learning. And so they kept encouraging me to stop teaching, and they kept saying, we'll be okay, because I didn't want to leave them. Mm-hmm. That was the hardest part. But I did to do a film, and that was where my break went. After I finished teaching at Langley Fine Arts, I moved into film and did my first film with Marie Clements. So it was an incredible film called We Are Family. And that's what it started out to be. And then it became Lay Down Your Heart, which happens in the editing process when they change things. But it started out as We Are Family, and I just loved that premise. And it was a documentary. And then went from there into Bones of Crows. And I was an assistant costume designer to Carmen Thompson and Jessica Callan for Marie. And
incredible.
So they were just amazing, amazing humans. And they really taught me, how to take my skills in fashion and then utilize them in the process of developing character in the film. So it was lovely getting to know all the fashion houses and all the costume houses and everything here out in Burnaby where I live, which was so wonderful.
You must have thought, of all the people, of all the designers in the world, that I could be on this Bones of Crows.
Yeah. It was like huge.
Mm-hmm.
My very first feature film was something so epic as a 5-part miniseries and feature film with one of the most amazing directors ever. So I was very lucky. I got to dress her.
Wow.
Which is how we got to know each other.
So how did they find you? Do you know the story?
I think she just saw my work because she had reached out the year before when she was doing Red Snow. And she's like, I'm going to the Leos. We're up for a possible award. Can you dress me? I was like, okay, what do I have that's quick? Because I wanted to be able to do this, and it was short notice. And so I got to dress Marie. And that's when I met Asavac Kustachin, because he was on that film. And I got to work with him later with his mom, because I got to, who I also met on the film Bones of Crows, because she was friends with Marie and was in Bones of Crows. And then I ended up doing a film with her, 2 films with her, a documentary and a feature film. Yeah. Wapake, which is up for an award for the Leos. And so is Bones of Crows, which is so exciting. I'm so thrilled to know that our work is getting recognized.
And the costume design specifically.
And so I was part of that, and it was just really exciting. And I made several of the garments that are in it. And so my fashion is featured in it, as well as being the assistant and, doing the research and finding the clothes and all of the different things that you do when you're an assistant costume designer. And, but then to see, in Bones of Crows, there's a coat that I'm wearing that one of the lead characters are wearing when they're in the Vatican. And it's so special to me because it's my coat, my own personal coat that I had created. And what was so beautiful when I was bringing clothes for the actor to try on, Gail Maurice, she's just an amazing human and an incredible filmmaker herself. And she put the coat on and she was just like, oh my God. It was so hot too. It was crazy hot. And she's putting on this coat. It's made out of Sherpa, but she could feel it. She could feel the energy, which is what is in my clothes, because they're more than just clothes. They have deep meaning. And that particular coat was important to me because it was, when you're out in the world, you don't always feel grounded. You don't always feel supported in your culture. And so sometimes you need a little bit of like a suit of armor. And so that's how I think of that coat. And what was so beautiful was to see it then in this pivotal moment in the film. And so it's like wrapped around you like this armor that grounds. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you miss teaching?
I do. I do. I find ways, though I'm part of, so that I can still keep teaching. I was telling Dean about it, where different teachers from different schools, from my old school, Langley Fine Arts, they will contact me because I was doing workshops and things within the school system. That was part of my role in the school, was to go into different classrooms and teach, as well as my own caseload. And so I still have teachers that contact me, and I've gone back several times to do talks in their classes, whether it's an English class or a young kids class doing cornhusk doll making. So I've found ways to stay connected. I'm also part of a group called Girls Who Leap, and it's working with the school, and it's really Britannia is the school, and I work with Mitra. And Jolene, who is part of Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week, she connected me with Mitra. So as part of VIFW, I did my own collection, but I also worked with the youth, and we made shawls. So what's beautiful about Girls Who Leap is it's very inclusive to all nations, all peoples, just everybody. And what's so beautiful about it is that even if they didn't have their own crest, we had crests for them that they could use to create their shawl. And then they made it, from who they were, whatever territory they came from. And it was just this beautiful, inclusive thing that we did. And then we walked it on the runway. And I was so busy helping the kids. I had set aside some material. I was going to make a blanket for myself so we could walk together. And I didn't have time. And so I just went, okay, it's important to get all the kids done. They made me one, and they made me one with the rainbow. It was a rainbow butterfly. And so they're just so, it's all about youth empowerment. And I'm so thrilled to be able to still be doing what I'm doing. And I'm just educating in a different sort of way, not just in the classroom, but now with the films and the plays that I'm doing, it's moving out, it's rippling out to a greater audience. The importance of our culture and then in fashion. So I have these three different ways that I'm getting the message of our people out to the world.
Right. And what is the process? So let's suppose someone requests, like you're on set or you're going to a fashion show, and what is the process that happens within your mind of what you do?
So it just depends on what I'm doing. So if I'm doing something in fashion, so say I'm making something for you, you come to me and you say, I'm really connected to your culture. I have an affinity to, we talked about killer whales. And so then I will research, wherever you've come from. If you have a nation, if you don't have a nation, that's okay too, because you are what I call culturally appreciating, right? And a lot of people get upset about cultural appropriation. And it's like, it's not cultural appropriation when somebody is wearing something that is made by an Indigenous person. So I'm trying to help people understand and not be afraid to buy our stuff. So if you're not Indigenous, and you then become an orator. So if I'm making a piece for you, we talk about all the things that are important to you around the killer whale. It could be, the waves are important. You were just talking about how you loved surfing, right? So when you connect those two things, I would create that in the garment so that when you're wearing it, you become an orator for our people, you'd say, if someone says, oh, well, you've culturally appropriated that because you're wearing something that's Indigenous, and you'd say, no, I'm culturally appreciating because I bought it from an Indigenous designer. Her name is Yolanda Skelton. She told me and taught me all about the culture and the crests that are involved in this piece. And now I can share that with the world, right? So this is the way, that's that interplay of reconciliation, because you want to learn about my people and our culture. And that's really, really important because that's how we break down barriers. And that's what I'm always doing with the kids that I work with in Girls Who Leap, is that we're learning about each other's cultures and we're breaking down those barriers, and we're, feeling like a collective family that is working towards a bigger purpose in life, that we each in our own way have this kind of ripple effect. You'll be out there and you'll be wearing that piece and you'll have that sphere of influence that will then spread. And I figure it's just like pebbles in a pond, right? And then we all interconnect with each other in these kind of unique ways. And when I'm working in film, it's kind of a little bit different because I'm working sometimes on different territories. So, and sometimes the stories are a little bit different. Like, I'm Gitxsan, so I don't purport to know anything about anybody else's culture. So when that comes up, I research and I learn as much as I can, and then I connect with people from those nations. And the last place I was Hamilton. And so I was working on a play, and I've only ever done 2 plays, but it was Cree. So I was getting consulting on how to make the ribbon skirts and the different things that were needed for that. And so it's really, really important to connect with and either get, people from the nation to make them for you when you're working in costumes, or have them guide you in making it. But you're always doing everything with the utmost respect for each person's nation. And that's really important, especially in costumes, because it's not costumes, it's regalia in a lot of sense. And so when I'm there, I'm explaining that. I just did some work. I do consulting as well. So I've worked on films, but I also do consulting for if a non-Indigenous designer comes and says, okay, I'm working on this film, like The Great Salish Heist, they contacted me and asked me if I would dress Ashley Collingbull in the film. And so I pulled out all these different outfits and I tried to figure out what was going to work. And she looked beautiful. And so it was so nice to see that, see her. I went to her film because it was just here in town at the film festival. The Vancouver International Film Festival. And so it's just nice to see my work out there on her in such an amazing film.
And Ashley Kellingbull, for anyone that doesn't know this, was the former Miss Universe.
Yeah, Mrs. Universe.
Mrs. Universe. Miss Universe. And it's just such an honor to have our Indigenous people be recognized and stand up. And it was really a pivotal moment for fashion, for design, for models, for beauty. And she is one of, not only did you dress her, but she's also a personal friend now, and you also dress her for many events. And she's an inspirational speaker and a mentor and an actor and just an amazing human.
I'm just so thrilled because she's now in the Miss Universe pageant.
Right.
So but I'm going to be dressing her again for her press junket. So it's really nice to have my new collection and be able to dress her for that as well. So
every time you wear Yolanda's clothing, you're my Miss Universe.
Oh, that's Ms. Universe to you. And I'm absolutely thrilled. You were kind enough to loan some of your wardrobe to us for the Bears Lair.
Yes.
Season 2.
Yeah.
So being able to shop, and I have to tell everybody, to be able to go to Yolanda's closet and be able to pick and choose and shop is an absolute honor. And a lot of the pieces for the Bears Lair, which you're going to be seeing every single week, which we're going to be promoting, has a story to it. And can you tell us, when you, as you call it, cultural appreciation, every design that Indigenous artists have a meaning to it, whether it's a symbolic meaning in respect of their own cultural history, family. I'm proud of the Frog Clan, so I think it's very serendipitous that you're wearing a frog tie.
My grandpa was a frog, and so I wanted him with me today.
Yes, frogs.
He gives me strength.
Frogs are peacemakers and negotiators, and I love that. My husband could probably say the opposite of being a peacemaker with me sometimes, but I love that, and I love that you have a story that comes with everything that you have, and it's not just this is a frog and it represents this. Tell us a little bit about the stories with your fashion, because I know that I wore an outfit for the first episode, and you gave a really long description of what it was about, but it's not just a description of the design, it's about the feeling that outfit has to bring it energy. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, whenever I'm creating something, there's always, I put a lot of love into each and every piece that I create, but there's story and there's history. And the piece that you were wearing in that is actually connected to the chill cap blanket. And it is kind of one of those things that was a lost art that is now being reclaimed all up and down the coast. There's people who are embracing and finding ways to learn how to do and bring back that chill cap blanket style and the raven's tail and all of these different things. And because I'm not a weaver, I love to learn to weave. And I started to learn with my wonderful friend, Megan O'Brien. She was teaching me how to weave. But before I learned, I realized I could create some of the motifs in applique. And that's the one that I made that you wore in the first episode. And that piece is really important because it was worn by chiefs, and it took them over a year to make a chill cap blanket. And what they would do is they would use mountain goat wool, and they would spin it with cedar in the center of it. And it's such an ingenious thing because that cedar would then protect the wool from the moths and different things that would want to eat it, right? Because they love the wool. And that's why today they have our blankets from all those hundreds of years ago. They're in the museums and places because of the ingenuity of our people to put that cedar into the warp. And it's just so beautiful. And it was such a unique one. And it was from the storytelling point of view, like when I was growing up and learning to create, I'm what they call a dreamer. So I dream the concepts before I actually make them. Like I see what it's supposed to look like finished. And it was so neat when I was hearing about the stories of the chill cap blanket and how it came to be. It was in a dream. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I come from this long line of dreamers that dream what it is before it's made. So I always had to go, okay, now how do I make that? Because it's like this backwards. I've always gone through the back door in everything that I've done, which is what's kind of fun about it is that because I was not traditionally trained, I don't know what all the rules are. So I just break them most of the time because I just want to work outside the box. I want everything to be really unique, which is why everything that I do is pretty much one of a kind. I don't mass produce anything. Each piece has cultural meaning to it. And like a chieftain, like you were in a position of power and in your bear's lair. And that's why I thought it was so important for you to wear that piece, because that's that cultural prominence. When you're wearing it, you stand in the culture, right? And it grounds you and gives you that strength. So that's what I was hoping was wrapped around you as you were going into your first episode, right?
No, and it set the tone for great energy. And I know you always talk about that, about you put love in every single piece. And maybe you can describe for our viewers, because I am wearing one of your lovely coats, and talk about your product line with sustainability and what this means.
So what I've been doing over the years, like I started out and I hadn't thought about the environmental impacts as much in fashion until I got into fashion. And then I started to realize what was important. And so each I've done, I think, 4 different collections now. Each collection, it changes, and I'm working more and more towards sustainability. And so one of the things that I was thinking about with this last collection called Flight for the Earth, it was flight because everything in the collection was supposed to fly. I even had flying fish, which you wore to one of your functions. Had to find a way to get the ocean in there. But anyways, so what I've been doing is I've been upcycling. So I go to vintage shops and thrift stores and different things, and I find the most beautiful coats and leather and different things, furs, anything that I can upcycle and create into different things. And that's what one of the pieces that you're wearing today. I love the ladybug, and the ladybug is so important. And it's, they are a huge part of our ecosystem, and people will bring them in and they will have them in their gardens because they're such an integral part. And so I wanted to honor that little ladybug. And when I saw those polka dots, I was like, oh, ladybug. And so I created my own little indigenous ladybug to go on that piece that you're wearing. And I just thought about the environment. So the grasses and all these different things, the grasses that are medicine. So I always try to weave those different things into the pieces. So then when you're wearing it, that energy from those animals is in you, because I don't know, it's like almost like osmosis, that the characters and the presence and the qualities of those animals. That's why it's important when you're wearing it that you stand in that power of that animal when you're wearing it and you honor them. And each and every piece that I create is about, when it's about environment, I'm trying to bring attention to the environment. That's why you'll see the salmon egg or the salmon head in a lot of things. That's always bringing attention to the water, because I'm a water protector. But I do it in a subtle way, in a way that brings attention to it every single collection, so that it's always in people's minds to protect the water, whether it is the rivers that needed to be protected because that's where the fish go up to spawn, to protect those different areas. And that's why each of the pieces, they will, in that collection, they're upcycled. Some are completely deconstructed. So if it's got a beautiful cut to it, I keep the cut and I add to it. If it's something, there's a piece that I made for that collection where it was a jacket and I cut the sleeves off. I scooped out the back and it became something completely different. And then it was, a Thunderbird dress. Well, it's kind of like it became a vest, a backless vest and skirt. So the power of the Thunderbird is walking down that runway, empowering the person within that is wearing it, right? And so
I love it. And there's another design that we have against the wall here.
This one was really fun to make. And I just did a fashion show with Diba Events, a Persian company that invited me to be part of their fashion show. And there was a lady who had that same coat. And I was trying to explain to her that I had use that coat in my fashion show. And so when I was creating it, I was thinking about the eagle clan. And so it's an eagle copper. And in our culture, our coppers are really, really important because they connect us to the land and the territories. And whenever there's disputes, if you see coppers with broken parts, that means there was a dispute somehow, some way. And then the copper gets broken by the chief. And then when you mend that dispute, then the copper gets repaired and that piece gets joined back. And so when this came out on the runway this year, when you look at the front, it's just, you just see the collar and the cuffs. You don't see the design. And what was so cute was I wore it the next day after the show, and an elder came up to me and she said, "Oh, that's the wow coat." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "When it came out, we saw it. And then when it turned around and we saw the copper on the back, you could just hear the wow in the audience." So it just made my heart so full to know that my people really value the work that I'm doing and like what I'm doing. And I'm feeling better. And I'm also working on pieces that not only like the upcycling, but when I'm working with new products, I'm also trying to make sure they're environmentally friendly, also friendly to our bodies, because we vibrate at certain energy levels. And so the fabrics that we put on our body, that vibration is really important. And wool and linen are the highest vibrational frequencies. And so our medicine people used to wrap us in linen when we were sick. And that's because it vibrates at such a high level and frequency. So I'm trying to incorporate that in everything that I'm making. And when you guys came to my apartment to look at the stuff and try things on, I was working on a piece for a client, and it's all in linen. And so I was just so excited because I'm thinking about the fact that when he wears that piece, it's Chilkat in design. And it's for somebody who's close to my heart, family, but also somebody I grew up with in my home territory. So to have those cultural connections and familial connections, and then they're out in the world wearing these pieces of our heritage, it's just really exciting. So I'm really excited to finish his piece so that he can wear it.
I came home and I told Dean, I said, Yolanda told me something really exciting about the vibration of linen and the energy on your skin, but and same with wool, but if you wear both of them together, they cancel each other out.
They do. And it's because they vibrate in opposite directions. So that's why you never wear them together. And it's just really interesting. And there's different, so that's why I'm getting into more of the natural fibers. Also, same with when you're wearing leather, because it's the animal, it also vibrates at a higher frequency. And like organic cotton vibrates at the same as your body. So then it's not taking from your body. So I'm trying to avoid anything synthetic as much as possible in the things that I'm creating from here on. And I've been creating ties with silk and with linen and different things. That's going to be my whole new collection is going to be all about, the sustainability and really utilizing all the scraps and things that I've been using for all these years. I have bins of all the scraps. And so I'm using those as part, because I'm going to be doing a mentorship in Toronto that's coming up. I leave on the 10th and I'm in Toronto till the 24th. And so that's part of my working with youth. So what I'm trying to do is share my knowledge with the youth. And I've been working with them since VIFW. So I do mentorship with them as well. And I'm part of the cultural council for VIFW, one of the mentors. And so as part of they call it the Wisdom Circle. And so I've been doing a mentorship with Tamara Whitford and Kevin Gosnell there. And then now a friend of mine, Peter Morin in Toronto, has asked me to be part of a mentorship project there. So I'm going to be doing that. And it's just beautiful because we each have something great to teach each other. It's like I'm not the only mentor. Kevin's mentoring me and how to create patterns, and Tamara is an incredible illustrator. So we each draw from each other's strengths, and It's really fun.
Is there a place for the audience to see all your collections, or?
I do have a website, which is I'm always struggling to keep it up to date. But I also have a TikTok and Instagram. So you can just type in my name, pretty much just Yolanda Skelton. Just make sure you spell it with an O, Yolanda like Honda. If you spell it with an A, you can still sort of find me because it's spelt wrong in different places. But if you spell it with an O, then you will find me on Instagram just with my name. Mm-hmm. And then you can see the different things that I've been working on. And it's lots of fun. And the kids taught me how to do TikTok. they're always
the teacher becomes the student.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about this mentoring, because I've never thought of it as a top down. It's not a pyramid. In our Indigenous culture, it's a circle, right? And so my philosophy is that each and every one of us bring their talents, their individual talents and strengths to the table. And I always taught that to my students too, is that, because they're always going, oh, well, I'm not good at math, or I'm not good at English, but you bring something else, right? Not everybody's good at one thing. You bring your talent to the table and you become part of the greater whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And you said an acronym, VIFW.
Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week.
That's right.
Yes,
and so if anybody wants to participate in seeing some of the lead fashion designers, because not just local.
No, they're international. People put in applications from all over the world to become part of Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week.
And it's become huge.
Is amazing. Yes. And we started out in the atrium for several years, and now we sold out the full theater of the Queen E. It was amazing. We've sold out the bottom, and then we had to open up the top and sold that out. It was just incredible. The support from our Indigenous communities is just incredible, because it's the youth are seeing what we're doing and they're empowered by what we're doing, and they want to be a part of it. And whether they're modeling or, learning to be designers, or that's the beautiful part about what Jolene Mitten is doing with Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week. She brings the elders together with the wisdom circle and all the different generations. So it's very, very cultural, and the support is incredible, right from all the different layers of things that are going on. She's an incredible leader in what she's doing. And I was so happy to dress her for her top 50. She was in Vancouver as one of the top 50. And so just to see her, empowered and wearing that piece, because that was the piece I made in Banff. And there was so much wisdom in it because of the cultural knowledge that I learned. I learned how to tuft. And I put all those pieces in there. So when she stood there in that piece, she was empowered to do this incredible work that she does. And
we were lucky enough to see at the Vancouver Art Gallery your fashion show. And for everyone that's listening and everyone's that's tuning into this, anytime that you do a show yourself, we talk about everything from the thoughtful vibration of the fabrics that you're using to the story to the people that you're dressing. But we were so thrilled because it's a show. It's a fashion show, not just runway models walking and posing with a blue steel look on them. Mm-hmm. They are actually acting out animals, and they're telling a story while you're watching it. And it's fluid and it's choreographed, and it really brings you into the culture of what you're doing. And you're the way you curate, the way you direct and produce your own fashion shows is something else. How much time does it take? And I love the fact that you're talking about Jolene, because I know there's Supernatural Models.
Yes.
Which is the first Indigenous fully production of Indigenous models to really raise them up to the next level, and from very young to older.
Yes.
To older models as well, and really supporting each other. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well,
the production of it all?
I've been working with them since 2017 when I first started and showed my first fashion show then. And there was this stable of models that walked my work then, and I've just grown with them in Fashion Week, Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week. Every year I've participated in having a collection in there, and in that I've built really incredible relationships with each of the models, and I've seen them grow. And they started out with Jolene. It was a way of her to connect with the youth. And then she started to bring it to where it helped them, gain confidence in themselves. And I've seen them evolve over time and just grow into incredible, incredible models that are, now showing in New York and Milan and all over the world. And what's so beautiful is that, Jolene is a trailblazer in so many ways, and people come out of the woodwork to support what she's doing because they see what a visionary she is. And I'm right there with her. Everything that I create it's not just about me, it's about the collective. And that is our ideology as Indigenous people. It is about the collective. It isn't just about the one person. And so when they're working, we are working as a team, from the hairdressers to the people that are doing the hair and the makeup. Those people bring their expertise to what it is. The models then bring their beautiful, incredible energy to that stage, because that's just hanging right there on the wall. It isn't anything until it is embodied by your beautiful energy, the model's beautiful energy. It brings it to life, and it then can tell the story. And that is that catalyst, right? Because it's just hanging there. It's beautiful to look at. But until you have the story, and what's been really nice is that when I work with Jolene, we do that fashion show, but we also do other fashion shows where we're doing talks. And so I was able to do a talk and explain each and every piece. We just did an anniversary, the 80th anniversary for the Vancouver Foundation, I think it was. And it was so nice because people came up to me afterwards and they said, "Oh my gosh, I never knew that about, that crest. I've seen it on things, but I didn't know, what the eagle represented or what the, killer whale meant, or the bear, or, because as I'm talking, I'm explaining the connection to the land and the connection to the things that are important. And what's beautiful about the process when somebody comes and commissions something from me is I help them with that connection to the land, because when you wear something of the land, you're connected to the land, you want to protect the land. And so that is the bigger message of the work that I do. It's about learning about Indigenous culture, seeing our values, and then taking those values and incorporating them, because I believe that we were all connected to the land. We just, at different stages, got disconnected. And our jobs as Indigenous people is to help reawaken that connection. And it's something I hold very dear. And even though I miss my students, I feel that what I'm doing with plays, with movies, with fashion, it's opening up that ability to share the knowledge on a grander scale so that people make that connection. When I was doing, there's two pieces that were really important when I was teaching. I was teaching an environmental science class. And so each of the kids were able to make, they had their own passion project. And I created a piece that was made out of squares. Paco Rabanne was my inspiration. He was quite edgy for his time and made all kinds of wild and wonderful things. And so I made it all out of squares. And it's grommeted together. It's not sewn together. It's grommeted together. And I wore it I actually fit it. I was surprised I fit it. But I wore it on my last fashion show. But it was about that connection to the environment. And it was all about protecting the rivers. And it was the spawning at the bottom and everything. So I made that piece. And so that inspired my environmental science students to use whatever platform. So I'm using my fashion as a platform. And then the last piece was the one that I did for when the 215. So I was on my way to school when I heard about the 215. We'd always known that was a possibility. And in Bones of Crows, it's actually in our film before it was even part of known to the world. And I made that piece that had 215 little moccasins on it. And I had cut that out before, and I had made a giant version of those little moccasins. And I was like, oh my God, please God, help me make the right size so there's exactly 215. And there was. So I believe I was divinely guided by those kids to make something that was powerful, that was going to help them have a voice. And it went all the way to Italy, to the Vatican, on Tina House.
Mm-hmm.
So, that message, that's what I mean when I say my work is not about me. My work is about the message, and it's about, getting that message out into the world so that people change their viewpoint and start to think from a different perspective. So,
wow.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite piece of your own that tells a story, or does everything just have different meanings? So there's no favorites, or how would you?
The most impactful piece that is the one that's actually in the scene of the Vatican in Bones of Crows, because that's the one I made. And the reason it's important is that on the cuffs, it has my clan, which is the fireweed. So when I'm wearing it, I'm connected to my clan. My crest is a killer whale. So I put the killer whale wrapped around, and it's on the shawl of the coat. But inside that are my ancestors. And so in the tail is an owl for wisdom of my grandmother and all the stories that she told me. So there's an owl in the tail of the killer whale. And in the dorsal fin, there's an eagle for the Haida people when I was living with them on Haida Gwaii. I lived there 21 years. And my great uncle was Thomas Hansen. He was an argillite carver, and I grew up at his knee. I was on the floor while he was carving. So I was exposed to the designs my whole life before I even moved to the island. And so they adopted me into the Joth clan and named me Rainbow Woman Poweljet. So in the dorsal fin is an eagle, but it was also my great-grandfather's clan. And then when it comes around to the very back, there's a little frog, which is my grampy. And so that my grandparents are always with me, keeping me strong. And so when I'm wearing that, I am empowered. And when I wear it out, it's a really good conversation piece, because I met this little girl at the Fig in Victoria. I was going there to get some food for dinner, and she came up to me and she's like, in school, I'm learning about the killer whale. That's a killer whale, isn't it? She was all excited, and she was looking at my coat. And so I stopped, and she was Mediterranean, and so her culture and my culture, we were bonding over culture. I was eating their amazing food, and she was excited about learning about my culture. So I showed her all the parts, and I told her all the stories and all the connection, and she was you could just see her little body vibrating, and just how excited she was that she was learning about my culture. And my heart just expanded, because that's what needs to happen here in our society. And the more that happens, the more we come together as a human race. And and so fashion is a beautiful way. It's a gentle way to connect with people. And it's not confrontational. It's a gentle way. And I always teach my students, be like water, because it's the most powerful thing on earth. And if you be like water, you can navigate anything that comes your way, because you can be powerful in when you need to be. You can be soft when you need to be. You can move around, under, over, absorb, all those things that water is, and then protect it. So, yeah, it's really fun.
I love it. I could sit here and talk all day about fashion. And I love there's Yolanda, you're an icon. You haven't been, obviously you've always had this artistic talent about you. Can you tell, because I know that you taught for 22 years, as we talked about, can you tell young designers that are working their jobs right now, but have that love for fashion and are afraid to take that step, that really believe in themselves? Because it is a time, particularly if you're an Indigenous fashion designer, to really have an opportunity to rise up and to be mentored by amazing designers like yourself, how they can reach out and get some advice, or how can they get involved, or if there's organizations or places that they can go to learn more and really advance their skills and get into the industry.
Well, my door is always open. I'm on all these different platforms, and I've had multiple students reach out to me, whether they're doing their thesis. I was just helping with a lady who's doing her thesis and on digital knitting. And so I just always tell them, my door is open. If there's something that's important to you, you want me. And then there's another girl in France. I met her when I was in Italy at a conference on cultural appropriation. It was a fashion in 3D in Rimini, and they asked me to speak. And so I also talked with the students there in the fashion. And then they actually wore my clothes. We did a whole fashion show. It was wonderful. But then she reached out to me and she says, I'm doing my master's, and can you answer some questions? And so those are different things that I do. If they want to do it and be connected to fashion, the best way to meet other designers is to come and volunteer for Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week. Like, reach out to Jolene and her team. And if you're interested, there's all kinds of different jobs. That's how I met Kevin, and that's how I met Tamara. And they're both Indigenous people who are very interested in fashion, and, and believe that you can do it. Like I was teaching because I was like, okay, can I make a living at this? I was really, really scared to just stop teaching and then do what I'm doing, because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make a living at it. But one of the things that I learned was that I needed to take leaps of faith, and that was what I was meant to do. If it's what I'm meant to do, the doors will open. The opportunities will be there. And I always want kids to take those leaps of faith, like follow your passion to the highest that you can. And sometimes, yes, you have to feed yourself and you have to do these other things, but don't give up on your dream. Like, hold tight with that dream, because dreams become reality. And I'm living proof that, I can do this in my 50s. I taking that leap, I took early retirement, and now I am, living the dream that I wanted to live my whole life. I wanted to be an artist. I didn't know the artist I would become would be a fashion designer artist, but, I'm living that. But make sure you take time off, which I'm slowly learning to do, because you don't want your passion to become a job in the sense that it's not fulfilling you. You want it to always be that passionate spark that it was. And that's why I think I like what I'm doing now, that it's not like you are the only person in the world that has that on at this moment in time. And when I'm making something for somebody, it's unique to them. So I always, in a world where you're trying to fit in, I always wanted to stand out and be different, because I didn't want to be a follower. I wanted to be a leader, in the sense that I want people to be able to be who they are authentically, not carbon copies and following like sheep. I want them to be individuals. And that's what I'm trying to foster in the mentorships that I'm doing. And so when you come to places like Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week, that's what they're doing, is they're fostering your passion, whether it's in, the media, whether it's in fashion design, whether it's in modeling, there's so many different things that you can do there. And each of those different people in those different places, they're fostering the passions of these young people. And you're helping your community. And it's such a beautiful community. We all the elders, we get together, we smudge, we talk, we do, it's this huge family that Jolene has created. And that's what I love about, the models, the model families, the film families, the play families that I've been a part of. It's so special. I'm going to be doing a play in London, Ontario, coming up in when is it? February of next year. And it's a reboot of a play that I did in Winnipeg a year ago. They're redoing it, The Secret to Good Tea, Rosanna Deerchild, and, Renai Morrisseau is my director. So I have these different pockets of knowledge that I'm able to share with different schools. So schools can reach out. I've done that with schools for helping and coming in and doing talks, whether it's about fashion, whether it's about plays, whether it's about movies. So there's all these different places. I'm trying to think of other places, but I just want kids not to, think that it's impossible. Like, dream big, shoot big.
Great advice.
Well, I love that, and I think that's a great way to end the conversation, because it really is dream big, and there are different possibilities. And when is the next Vancouver Fashion Week?
That's in November, from the 20th to the 23rd.
Perfect. So if our listeners have anybody that, if you or anybody that you know is interested in fashion and you'd like to volunteer in respect of or get into modeling or anything like that, then they should contact Jolene.
Yes.
And if you want to hear anything about fashion design and get a hold of Yolanda, she's on LinkedIn, and probably by far the most personable designer that I've ever met, and always has your door open to help and advice, and certainly dresses me up.
You always look smashing.
to the tens, and I just thank you so much and put my hands up, and what a beautiful interview. So thank you and a conversation. Thank you for being with us today.
It was so lovely to be here and be a part of what you both are doing is so very special, and supporting our communities with Bears Lair. And so I was just really honored to be a part of that and be able to dress you.
And check out every single week, because Yolanda's outfits are not just on me, they're on Tabitha Bull, and we've got some great, she's got some great pieces, and we'll be telling the story every single week about what they mean. So thank you for tuning in, everybody, and thank you, Yolanda.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Lair. Please follow us, download this episode, and follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok.